how to avoid and recover from burnout.
Animation Secrets.
On this week's Animation Secrets, I wanted to discuss a topic that's common in a lot of industries, but especially the animation industry, and that is of burnout. Burnout can come in a lot of different ways, and it means maybe a lot of different things to different people. So I'm discussing what it means to me and what I've read. One of the books that I really like, just about success in general, but also discusses some burnout, is Barking Up the Wrong Tree. So some of what I'm discussing is based on research discussed in that book. So if you want to read more, go check out that book. So what is burnout? It's a term that's thrown around a lot. And for me, I've experienced it maybe once or twice so far in my career. It's usually not come in the form of the source being my actual animation job. It's actually come from life and life circumstances. In general, burnout refers to a sense of feeling overwhelmed and pessimistic and hopelessness that you can fulfill your duties or be productive towards your goal. Researchers also found that burnout is basically the same thing as depression. And there's also research that shows that just being able to name an emotion like this can help lessen its intensity. So acknowledging when you are depressed or burnout can actually help the situation by just acknowledging it. And that's based on research. The stuff like this that I do, I record YouTube videos and teach online. I can hit pause on that stuff. I don't have to keep doing this. I almost didn't even record this video today because I was feeling a bit burnout. And actually this weekend I meant to record it, but instead we went on a little vacation because, like I said, life circumstances, sometimes I feel burnout. And last week, unfortunately, our pet suddenly passed away from anaphylactic shock, an unknown allergy we're not sure about. So when something like that happens, I tend to try to take a step back and step away from work in general. And when I have so much kind of stuff on the side I'm doing, like teaching online or doing YouTube videos, I have the freedom to hit pause on that. So if your burnout is coming from your job, I would definitely discuss this with your manager and see if you can reduce your hours or workload, or maybe, see when your contract is ending, if you can take a long break. So for me this weekend, I stepped away from everything and we only did what we wanted to do. And one thing that I wanted to do was go paragliding. So that was pretty fun. And for me, that also just kind of helps reset my mind, focus my priorities. We also met some interesting people, and which goes back to another way to help kind of resolve some burnout is make sure that you're staying in touch with friends and family, because they can help when you need to discuss these types of things. It always helps to have them around and have a network. Research has actually shown that having few friends is actually just as bad for your health as being obese. And there was another study that showed it's as bad as smoking up to 15 cigarettes a day. So part of burnout could be speaking to the fact that maybe you don't have the right work-life balance and the social kind of network and support around you that you might need to get through tough times like that. So you always want to make sure you're maintaining those relationships, even when you're working in an industry like animation or something that can be kind of demanding, or even just studying animation is difficult. So you want to make sure you're making time for those relationships when you can, because when the going gets tough, those are the people you're going to rely on to kind of help you give yourself perspective on where you're at. Now, this goes to another way to help kind of resolve burnout and depression is making sure you're getting enough sleep. Research has also shown that when you're tired, you tend to focus on the negatives. And like I said, what burnout is basically kind of focusing on the negatives of your circumstances, feeling overwhelmed, that you're not in control, you can't make progress on your goal. And if you're tired, you're going to focus on those difficulties and negative thoughts even more. So you want to make sure that you're getting enough sleep. And that tends to be at least 7 hours a night. Something that I've been doing that actually helps is using my Apple Watch and have a little sleep app on there to make sure that I am actually sleeping. I'm not just laying in bed, drifting in and out of sleep and not really counting the hours that I'm actually asleep. So I tend to use that app, and that helps me when I wake up in the morning kind of evaluate, do I need a nap today? Do I need to take a little nap after lunch to make sure that I'm keeping that kind of health up in my sleep area of my life. So just on a personal note and a personal story, I was actually diagnosed with cancer about 8 years ago. And that was kind of my biggest kind of burnout moment and needing to take a step away, because I felt, like I wasn't in control of my life when something like a health issue is imposed on you like that. And so I actually took a step away from the animation industry, not because I was burnt out from animation itself, but just because I was burnt out with life in general. And I couldn't really maintain that job and kind of do the recovery that I needed to do in my life. So I actually took a step away from the industry for about 8 months. I actually pursued maybe opening a sensory deprivation tank center, something totally different, but I was excited about it at the time. And kind of back to that burnout thing, it allowed me to shift gears and focus on something I felt like I did have control over, and I was excited about in general, and was different from what I was doing. So it was a big change of pace. I totally enjoyed that few months that I was away from the industry, not just because it wasn't animation, but because I kind of just recalibrated my life in general and got rest when I needed it, because it was all self-directed. I was like maybe starting a business and just kind of exploring that as an option, which I wouldn't have had time to do if I was still working animation. It ended up not working out just from a financial standpoint and finding funding for it. But to me, that whole experience was totally well worth it. And I would totally do it again, even though that business didn't get off the ground. And to this day, I still use floating as a way to help kind of reset my mind and my body a little bit. So if you've never done it, you might give it a try and see if it's a good fit for you, and kind of hitting that relaxation mode in your life when it's kind of difficult to do when there's sirens outside or there's stuff in your life that's happening. For me, sensory deprivation was a good way to kind of go into the meditation mode that I find hard to do when I'm just sitting down in a chair or on the floor. These are kind of the tips that I found in my life that's helped make sure I'm getting enough sleep, make sure my personal relationships are in a good place and I'm making time for those. And, acknowledging it when I am starting to feel burnout or depressed, so that just by naming it, it can reduce the intensity of that feeling. And I can start to take steps to avoid that going even more off the rails. And then when big things in life happen, like, our dog passing away last week, that I know that I need to take care of myself and I need to step away, like physically, where I was at, just to kind of get literally a new perspective. So that's why we went away for a weekend this last weekend, and also why I almost didn't get this video out this week. So hopefully this was helpful. I know a lot can happen in life, and this burnout subject is probably, I could make a whole series about this because it is such a huge topic, but I just wanted to touch on it because last week was kind of a tough week here for us, having suddenly lost our pet that we love dearly. Her name was Poppy, and she was awesome, and we will always remember her. So thanks for watching this week. And if you want to learn more about the animation industry, I actually put out a book called Break Into the Animation Industry. You can find it at ebook.digitalcreatorschool.com to learn more about what's in that. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.